Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to thank Ranking Member Neal for holding today's markup to address the devastating opioid crisis. And I want to thank Mr. Corbello for helping to advance the Combating Opioid Abuse for Care in Hospitals Act. It was only earlier this year that the Ways and Means Oversight Committee held the committee's first hearing on the opioid crisis. And I'm glad we're convening today to move legislation that seeks to prevent opioid overuse and improve access to non-opioid alternatives, and thereby minimize the risks of opioid misuse. Just this morning, I met with anesthesiologists from Washington State, and they informed me that approximately 51 million Americans undergo inpatient surgery each year, and over 80% of those patients receive opioids after low-risk surgery. Now, if you think that sounds problematic, you'd be correct, because studies find that an opioid prescription at discharge is an independent risk factor for chronic opioid use. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, roughly 10% of patients prescribed opioids for long-term use develop an opioid use disorder. These figures are horrifying and send a clear message that we must improve access to non-opioid pain treatment alternatives. The provisions in this bill will provide Congress and this committee with the answers we need to establish best practices for opioid prescribing and to better align payment policies so that patients can avoid opioids when alternatives are available. I'm pleased to see that this legislation will advance here today, but this committee must revisit this issue to ensure that change is truly made. I yield back.